this. Seriously?
The homie, this ain't for you. Ain't chasing paper, this ain't for you. You know what we came to do.
Hey,
you know what we came to do.
Look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
What have you seen from your quarterback so far this year?
Well, Jamari have been dealing with a shoulder injury since the first game, so he didn't play as much. He played a couple plays and he re-injured that shoulder, so we waiting on his status. And they know he came in and he played pretty well. Our true freshman, Ty Williams, we're probably going to start off with him. We always said if it's close, then we're going to go with our freshman. And it's been pretty close with all three of those guys. So right now it's pretty even. And like I said, if it's even, we're going with the freshmen. So it's still going to be worked out this week at practice, see who's going to have the better week. And that's who we're going to roll out there with.
All right. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of HBCU Flicks. It's your boy, Kelly Flicks. And we got plenty of football to talk about. That was head coach Kendrick Wade of Mississippi Valley State, talking about the predicament that he is in after starting the season, losing to two Division II opponents. They just lost to Delta State this past weekend, kind of dominated. They allowed 245 rushing yards. They only threw for about 120 yards. We'll get into it. There's plenty to unpack there. But the other teams in the SWAC did have some pretty impressive out-of-conference wins, and we'll talk about those. This past weekend, I was at the UCLA versus North Carolina Central game. Got a full reaction. We'll get into that. Central did not fare well, right? If I want to be the spoiler for you guys. They didn't fare well. They lost 59-7, right? And they scored their 7 points on the last possession of the game. So it is what it is, but I'll get into it. And then we got Benedict. Benedict looks unstoppable in the Division II ranks. Benedict and the Fist at O-line has dominated every team they played against this year. Through 3 games, they have scored 140 points and only allowed 7 points. Only one team has scored on Benedict, and it wasn't even their offense. The team's defense scored against Benedict. So Benedict still hasn't allowed an offensive touchdown this year through 3 games. So we'll get into that. That's just ridiculous. They've been dominating, and got to give kudos to them. Shout out to Coach Chennis Berry and what he's doing down there. But let's get into the reaction, man. It's time to react. So I was at North Carolina Central at UCLA. I told y'all going into it, I didn't expect much from this Central team. I did not expect an upset. I was hearing a lot about people saying it might be an upset and this could be something, but no, right? Going into the game, they were around 35-point underdogs on most betting books, right? So going into it, I didn't think they would win, but I did think that Central could score some points, right? Which was a little bit more disappointing to me than anything else, because when I think about this Central team, they were the HBCU Celebration Bowl champions last year, right? Like they're literally the best Division I HBCU school. When going up against a top 25 ranked UCLA, I'm not expecting to win, but I'm expecting a good showing, right? This is also, for everybody's sake, this is a Central team that's ranked around number 16 in the top 25 FCS. So this should be a decent squad. Going into the game, though, the big plays just really plagued Central, man. Like from the start, it was just bad, right? When it comes to tackling, bad tackling, there were a lot of missed assignments. And I'll say this, to every missed assignment that North Carolina Central made or any misalignment, UCLA capitalized and scored a touchdown. Like, I'd guarantee all those big plays that you saw, big run plays, big pass plays, it was really if one person made a mistake. If one person was out of position and UCLA saw that, they capitalized, they give the ball to that person goes for 50, 60 yards. So, hey, there's a difference between Power 5 football and HBCU football. Right. And I won't say that just based on skill level alone. I think it's really based on the support staff that the Power 5 program has. Because I've talked to you guys about this before, and we haven't been able to see it much in these HBCU games, but you see it really a lot in the Power 5 versus HBCU space. Because when I say that most times all 11 players don't run the correct play, like I literally mean that. Coaches strive to have all 11 players run the correct play, at least over 80% of the time so they can execute plays. you don't see those mistakes come up a lot in HBCU football. Sometimes you get away with them in HBCU football when playing against other peers institutions. But when playing against the Power 5, a lot of these guys are executing on 85% and up as far as the 11 getting the play right, executing the plays right. At least 85% of those 11 players are doing it right, if not all 11. And I talk about the support staff because when it comes to installing playbooks, and I won't spend too much time on this, it's kind of a short episode, guys. But when it comes to installing different plays throughout the week, the support staff having 20 to 25 coaches between the analyst and the position coach be able to push all this information to an offense or a defense really installs your game plan into the team, right? If you want to install 20 plays this week, you can do that, right? You have the support staff to do that. Everybody has iPads, right? Everybody's at practices, usually multiple practices a day in Power 5, mornings and in the evenings. So you just got to think about it in terms of athletic prowess. The amount of money that is put into the Power 5 football programs is different than FCS programs. It's very different, which is why one school is FBS and one school is FCS. It's an obvious difference, but it turns up on Saturdays. That's my only point. I didn't expect Central to win. I expected a better showing though. But as you guys can see, the boot, right? The boot. I've been talking around the point, but the boot. You see, Davius Richard is in a boot. So after the game, I spotted Davius Richard wearing a boot, a walking boot, which is for a sprained ankle. I was told that in this game he was supposed to play until it got out of hand and they were going to pull him. Right. Instead, midway through the first quarter, Davius Richard gets pulled. Right. Davius Richard is out. They put in their backup quarterback. Backup quarterback plays the rest of the game. Davius Richard's literally on the sideline in that boot for the rest of the game. So how severe is it? So I asked around, got a couple pretty good sources there in that locker room, and I'm told that this is kind of like a day-to-day type of thing, and he may sit out this game. Right. It's an over 50% chance that he'll probably sit out this next game against Valley, and then come back in the following game. Valley, take that for how you want to take it. But, yeah, they're looking past you guys. And the walking boot doesn't concern me as much. He did have an injury last year also. So, I mean, it's football. Everybody's out there injured. It's about severity. And it just doesn't seem as severe from my sources as people may think. So, I think he's just going to get healthy for MEAC play. And if MEAC play, they go sore and they do their thing. But I think Central bounces back from this, man. I saw some great players out there for Central, just not be able to make certain plays, man. It was a little disappointing. But for the most part, Central had a great showing. The crowd was there. They was jumping. The whole visitor side, I sat on the visitor side with the people, and we had a good time. It's UCLA, man. I think next year, hopefully, UCLA invites another HBCU out, man, or even USC invites a HBCU out. There's a heavy HBCU presence in Los Angeles, man, and a lot of people aren't capitalizing on it. UCLA has been for the past 2 years, right, between their women's basketball team and their football team, who's played 2 HBCUs in 2 years. So, moving on. Do I want to do a Did You Know? Nah, getting a little too statsy anyway. Let's talk about the Valley. Let's get into the Valley. So the next opponent that North Carolina Central has is Mississippi Valley. And Mississippi Valley has been struggling this year against Division II opponents. Hold on, let's cut that in there. Wow, there we go. They are 0-2 this year. 0-2. New year, same Valley. Flicks, what does that mean? Well, in 2022, Mississippi Valley lost to Delta State. And in 2013, they also lost to Delta State. They haven't played very many Division II teams in between there, but one of the games was Central State, and they lost that one also. Kind of willing to bet that Mississippi Valley has a losing record against Division II opponents in the past 10 years. That's a problem for a Division I program. First 2 games, you lose to Central State, Delta State. Central State aren't world beaters in the SIAC. If you don't know, they're not world beaters, right? They just lost to Tuskegee this past weekend. Good showing, but yeah, no. Delta State just beat Mississippi Valley like 34-7. They were favored to win the game by 25 points and they covered. Like literally they were predicted to win. Then they won by more points than they were predicted to win by. There's trouble in the Valley, right? As much as Coach Wade is very optimistic about things and feels as though his players are around him and have his back, there's trouble in the Valley. Those were the most winnable games on the schedule. It doesn't get any easier this year. A prime example was the next 3 games. You play North Carolina Central, who just won a Celebration Bowl. You play Florida A&M, who's probably the best team in the SWAC. Then you play Prairie View A&M, who I think is the second best team in the SWAC. So what's the odd that you don't come out of this 0-5, Valley? I'd like to know. Because you aren't favored to beat a Division II Delta State. I'm sure you won't be favored in these next 3 games. There's going to take a certain level of composure, a certain level of togetherness to come out of this with a win. I'm going to keep it real. These next 3 games with a win, period. And it looks like I got a little blur on my camera. I don't like that. Hold on one second. Don't worry about nothing, y'all. And look, man, I'm going to start doing some live shows soon, man. My schedule's crazy right now. That looks a little better. All right, yep. So, like I was saying with Valley, too many issues early on in the season, and you couldn't afford to come out here and be 0-2 and then have to face these 3 very good opponents. I think now they put themselves in a very tough position. You're on the back foot. You're going to play against a North Carolina Central team that probably won't have Davius Richard. I'm going to be the first to tell you the backup quarterback is pretty nice. He's a very good passer, like a very good passer. So you might have some trouble there. Playing Florida A&M at home and in Itabena, I'm not that confident. And then you go to PV, not that confident there either, even though you guys did upset PV last year. I'm sure they want to get their lick back. So trouble in the Valley for me, man. I'm not sold on the Kendrick Wade project yet. I'm open to it. I like what they're doing in the offseason, like what they did social media-wise, but I'm all about wins. And when I don't see wins on the record, I start to get a little skeptical about what's going on, right? Because at the end of the day, we're doing all this for wins. We ain't trying to get 1 million followers. We're trying to get 1 million wins. All right, this past game, Patrick Shigog of Delta State threw for 254 yards compared to Jarian Williams, who threw for 76 yards from Mississippi Valley. Delta State ran for 245 rushing yards versus Valley, who ran for 84. Big difference. And like I said I think I said on the Golden Boot podcast past week, it was hard to tell who the D1 team is and who's the D2 team. That's how I felt Alabama State and Miles. That's how I felt. It was hard to tell who the D1 team is and who the D2 team is. We'll talk about that with Arkansas Pine Bluff, too, because Coach Hampton's all excited about fucking winning by 1 point against Miles. I don't fucking know what that's about. But when I look at this Valley team, you're in trouble. Ring the siren bells. Figure it out. I thought Dino Maldonado might be able to save the day. He can't. You actually have gone with the freshman over Dino at this point. So it is what it is. I'd like to see Tajarian Williams come out here and at least spin the ball a little bit, go up against this North Carolina Central backup quarterback and show what he could do this upcoming week. But I'm down on Valley. I'm very down on Valley. Hopefully they get things together. So after Valley, we'll get into our SWAC recap, and then we'll talk Benedict. So SWAC recap. Here we go. Let's go through all these different SWAC games. There were a bunch, and there was some very fun games this past weekend. Here we go. At the top, we got Grambling. So Grambling played a game against Florida Memorial, right? So Florida Memorial is an NAIA program. They play a couple SIC schools. They play the Big Cat Classic against Edward Waters every year, game 1. They actually beat Edward Waters this year. They have a decent offense, right? You got the dude George Young, you got Will Bond at running back, Antoine Williams at quarterback. Florida Memorial does have some firepower offensively. But there is no reason that Florida Memorial should score any points on Grambling State. In the hole. Like, I'm sure there are SWAC teams that won't score 22 points. Well, they might against this damn Grambling defense. But usually there aren't SWAC teams that's going to score 22 points in the hole against Grambling. So to see Florida Memorial, someone go toe-to-toe with Grambling in the first quarter, that's an indictment on Grambling State's defense. I told y'all last week, they have the best offense in the SWAC, but the worst defense in the SWAC. This is what the worst defense in the SWAC will allow. 22 points to Florida Memorial. Southern beat them 90-0 last year. And kudos to Florida Memorial for getting a little bit better this year. But there's no way this Grambling team, a team that I think might be the win the SWAC, is allowing 22 points to Florida Memorial. The size difference alone shouldn't have kept this game close. I'm looking at Sundiata Anderson, 6'6" on the edge. Looking at Javon Carter, 6'5" at nose tackle. I'm looking at the 6'2" defensive end on the other side. I'm looking at Lewis Matthews out here. I'm looking at these 6-foot corners. And I'm watching Florida Memorial drive down on the field on HBCU Plus against Grambling State. Bad defense. Bad defense. Grambling, you got to score that up. Offensively, you got it together. You scored 60 points. I think this year you're going to have to average that if you're going to win the SWAC. It is what it is. I want to talk about this next game, though. Miles traveled to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and they barely lost. They actually had every opportunity to win. They missed a field goal. They couldn't convert on fourth down. They were given chances to beat this University of Arkansas Pine Bluff team down the stretch. Miles, just do it. Just do it. Couldn't get it done. Coach Alfonso Hampton, that's his name. Make sure I said it right. That's his name. Okay. Alfonso Hampton was pretty excited in the SWAC media call today. And look, getting your first win as a head coach is great, right? And I'm sure everybody would be excited about it. But in the fashion that you beat Miles in, I would not be satisfied with my play or with my players' play. I wouldn't be. If you look at the game and box score or the game itself, this game shouldn't be close. I'll give you this. I think Miles is one of the top, maybe I would say top 35 best Division II team, right? Have definitely some bounce back transfers on their team that is putting in work, so that's dope. But here's my thing here. If you're University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, you went to like the SWAC championship like 3 years ago. Granted, transfer portal, you lose a lot of those players. As a team, don't you expect to blow out Miles? If anybody else on the schedule, don't you expect to beat Miles like handedly? You wouldn't expect to like beat them by 1 point, would you? You wouldn't expect for it to really be competitive. So I think, honestly, this win right here might hurt you more than it helps you. It gets you over the hump. You go, yeah, we got one win, but the players in the locker room, you got to think, damn, can we win football games? If we're on the struggle bus against Miles, and let's pull up UAPB's schedule. Oh, we got a little chance, man. Because who's next? So UAPB. There we go. All right, so next game, Alabama A&M, Southern, Mississippi Valley. Those are the next three. Back half of the schedule gets a little tougher. We're going to talk about those guys. About these first three games, though. Alabama A&M, Thursday night game. They'll be playing this Thursday. By the time you watch this, they may have already played. Doesn't look winnable to me. Doesn't look winnable. The offense, UAPB's offense isn't good. Why can't you score points against Miles? Why can't you enforce your will against teams that have less scholarships than you? I can't expect them to enforce their will against Alabama A&M. This defense is actually decent, right? They're pretty stout. The offense put them in a lot of bad positions. We'll talk about that game. But Alabama A&M's defense is pretty good. If UAPB is going to try to sit back and just rely on their defense, no way. It's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, and it's going to be over. So next, moving on. FAMU against West Florida. So people were whispering, oh, man, FAMU better not lose. They better not lose. Please don't lose. Please don't lose. Please. So they didn't lose. At halftime, it was 3-3. I didn't watch it live. I'll call back on it afterwards. But I'll say this. FAMU handled business. However you want to put it, FAMU handled business. FAMU enforced their will on West Florida. Time and time again. This is a West Florida team that's number 6 in Division II. Number 6. So, look, I'm not a fan of Division I's playing Division II schools. Not a big fan of that. That's not really my thing. If you schedule and it happens, okay, cool. But understand you're not going to the FCS playoffs now. Like, you literally just took your chances. You just crapped out when you did that. That's fine. But when playing them, right, I understand some games are going to be competitive. I'm in favor of rivalries between Division I and Division II teams. If it's not a rivalry, I'm not really a fan of it. So I wasn't a fan of this game. But I'm always here to watch some good football, though, right? Watching Pee Wee Jarrett, watching John Giles out there for West Florida was pretty interesting. Going against his FAMU defense with Kendall Bowler, Javon Morgan, all type of guys back there. Even Kaimani King, who came out with an interception late in the game. But the biggest takeaway I have from this game is Jeremy Musa has got to get more accurate, yo. He's got to. Like, even the balls he's completing now, guys are having to make acrobatic catches for. When, in all honesty, the window's there. It's already open. Give them the ball. Keep it low. Your receivers are all under 5'8", bro. It is what it is. You're not throwing the 6'2" guys, all right? You got a couple guys. Jeremiah Pruitt and the other tight end. Other than that, we keeping it under 5'8". Let's go ahead and get our mechanics together and get these throws down. A lot of these guys are wide open, Jeremy, and we're just missing them at this point. So, yeah, we got to get a little better at that on offense. But, hey, all that I say about it and all that how it looks, not about how it looks, it's about how it happens and what happens. And quite honestly, Jerry Musa did a good job in the second half. Balled out. 3 touchdowns, close to 300 yards passing. I don't think could have asked for much more from Jeremy Musa. He improved throughout this game, right? In the first half, it was a little tough to get things going. But in the second half, he really turned it on, and he saw the rest of his offense react to that. Offensively, the running game even got going, right? So Jeremy Musa threw for 271. FAMU rushed for 178 rushing yards. So when looking at this game, pretty balanced game from FAMU, and that's what we've seen in their past couple wins, right? The win against Jackson State in week 1, and now this win in week 3. A balanced offense that's throwing the ball for almost 300 yards or 300 yards, and an offense that's running the ball for nearly 200 yards. That's their offense, right? They're going to keep it on the ground, but while keeping it on the ground, they're going to be able to pull it out on an RPO and give it to some of those speedy receivers. They got them, man. Between the Gassett, between Marcus Riley, between K-Dot, between Oxidine, between Kareem Burke, they got them. So if Musa can continue to really manage this offense and continue to move the ball downfield, don't really see too many issues for FAMU, but I got to see the consistency, right? And that's because of the inaccurate passes. Inaccurate passes kill drives, right? That's different between getting a third down conversion and not. So take that for what it is. Division II win, good win. not 35-7. That game was 31-10. It's a good win. I'll take it. So Mississippi Valley at Delta State, they lose 35-7. Embarrassment. That's embarrassing, homie. That's embarrassing. Anytime you see that, that's embarrassing. The fact that Mississippi Valley wasn't even favored to win this game is even more embarrassing. But I'll talk to y'all about that. We're moving on. Texas Southern loses to Rice. Andrew Body didn't play in this game. They lost to Rice. This is like their back-to-back FBS game. Like second time they've allowed the other team to score 60 points. So tough go at it for Texas Southern. Somebody in the SWAC presser today asked if he thinks these back-to-back FBS games plays on the team's mental. And that was interesting enough because Coach Clarence McKinney really responded in saying that the players understand that the competition they were playing against essentially was better. They're just better. Like, they're just better teams. So every team has a different philosophy. Coach Cano Maynard thinks they Cano Maynard thinks that he only gets paid for SWAC games and he doesn't have to even be competitive in these Power 5 games. Coach Clarence McKinney sees it as a way of talent discrepancy at times and a team that's just overall better. Coach Willie Simmons sees it as a coaching difference between FCS and FBS. So everybody looks at it different. Just bringing up that. But then Alabama A&M at Southern. So that was a funny game. I'm not going to lie. That was a funny game. But very entertaining. But I will say this. I'll take this from that game. Alabama A&M, they went with Quincy Casey this game. I guess Xavier Langford was hurt this game, and he didn't play at all because he was hurt. Because today in the SWAC presser, Coach Connell Maynard said that Langford is day-to-day, and he might play on Thursday. So, I mean, day-to-day on a short week usually means he's going to sit the guy out. So, he's probably going to sit him out. And talking about the game, though. So, what I saw, Alabama A&M tried to get too cute, homie. Tried to get too cute. You finally, I think that what was happening, just my thoughts. You know, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know any of these coaches. My thoughts, though, what seemed like what was happening was that Alabama A&M was becoming more of a run-first team with Xavier Langford at quarterback, even with Quad at quarterback, too. And, I think we saw this game was a pass-balanced attack from Alabama A&M because they had a guy that was a little more capable of running a pass-happy attack with Quincy Casey. But the thing about Quincy Casey, he was mad inaccurate. And I said that same thing last year about Quincy Casey. His passes downfield are inaccurate. They really are. He has trouble hitting windows or moving targets downfield. I think that's the reason why we saw so many passes but at such a low volume for Quincy. Because there were some drops downfield, a couple drops, but a lot of these passes were off target. And the reason why I think we saw a low volume out of Quincy Casey this weekend was the fact that we were throwing so many routes under 10 yards. There were so many routes thrown under 10 yards between screens and slants and check downs. He loves to throw the check downs. He will stop reading the defense downfield and quickly go to a check down. And by the end of the game, Southern was all on top of check downs. They were literally just waiting for the ball to come to a check down running back. So for me, Quincy Casey has to improve in passing the ball downfield if this Alabama A&M team wants to be able to shift into this pass-happy attack, because I think that's why it didn't work. If you can't complete the ball downfield, the roof closes, right? It almost becomes a thing of try it if you're a defense. Defense is telling you to try it because you can't hit a guy that's wide open down there. So I saw some issues there for Alabama A&M offensively, and I think that's kind of what led to the issues. You decide to get cute, go to a pass-happy attack when really your philosophy has been run the ball the entire season. It has. Let's pull up these stats real quick. I'm speaking from more of what I saw. Let's make sure I'm factually correct. Appreciate all y'all for hanging in with me, man. Another great week of HBCU football. So let's check this box score for Southern. All right. So in this game, Quincy Casey threw the ball 39 times, almost 40 times. I don't think Xavier Langford has ever thrown the ball 40 times for Alabama A&M in the past 2 years he's been there. So I think it's pretty obvious that the coaching staff saw, we got Quincy Casey. We can throw the ball around the park if we want to. And they tried it. He threw 39 times. He had 19 completions for only 228 yards. You have 228 yards on 39 attempts. Low volume. That's what low volume. 3 sacks, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's low volume. You don't want that. Look at their rushing stats. They only ran the ball for 106 yards. That's it. 100. The dude, Ryan Morrow, who had 200 yards last week, ran the ball 7 times this week. You completely went away from your philosophy and got caught trying to look cool. Because you know what happened? You tried to look cute to the point to where you lost to a Southern team that doesn't really have an offense. And the only issue was that you kept putting your defense in difficult situations with turnovers on your own side of the 50. The punt, you try to punt the ball. He goes down at about the 5. I think you had a fumble like on your own 10-yard line. Those are offensive giveaways, really. So the only loses game 20-10 is a fact that this defense actually stepped up to the task. The offense couldn't get things going. If I'm Alabama A&M moving forward, if Quincy Casey is going to be my guy and Xavier Langford is out on Thursday, fine. Let's run the same offense. But understand that when Quincy Casey pulls, we should give him a pass option because he's not going to run. Quincy's not that guy. Can't force him to be that guy. You're trying to win a game, and that's your starting quarterback at the time. If that's the case, stick with the ball on the ground. This pass-happy attack, Quincy Casey throwing 39 times a game is not going to win you ball games. Donovan Eaglin touching the ball around 15 times. Ryan Morrow touching the ball around 15 times. It's probably what's going to win you the game. They ended the game with 38 carries. 14 by Eaglin, 7 by Ryan Morrow. It's unsatisfactory if you made your bread and butter on the run game. Why switch it up against Southern? Which is why I was questioning enough. And I think what I really came down to is the fact that Quincy Casey was there. That's why they switched it up. So, moving forward, Prairie A&M lost the SMU 0-69. Damn! They got whooped, but, I didn't expect them to do anything. Coach Bubba McDowell came out and said that they were holding out 3 offensive linemen, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to mistake that with Bethune-Cookman, but I believe Bubba McDowell said that. So they went without 3 guys, and they went with some young guys up front. And it is what it is. It doesn't seem like they were trying to win at all. So, McNeese and Alcorn State. Good win for Alcorn State. Alcorn State getting back on track. I spoke last week about how I don't think they can just bully guys and run the ball down the field. Well, they said, shut up, Flicks, and they ran the ball for 234 yards on the ground, passed the ball for 108 yards. So, hey, I get it. Stick to your philosophy. You don't got to listen to the pundits. You don't got to listen to the coalition, right? But what I will say is for Alcorn, I'm going to review the film some more. I've only seen some of it. I went through a lot of the numbers on it, so I'm not going to comment too much on this game. I will say salute to Alcorn for getting a good out-of-conference win for the SWAC. But secondly, okay, this works for me. If I'm Alcorn, I'm feeling a little better about things, right? We didn't pass the ball well, but they can't stop the run. This is what it was last year. 230 yards on the ground, 100 yards passing. We win the game 24-14. That's what it was. This week, this game was 14-3 for the majority of the game until the end of the game. Then it moved up to 17-3. But for the most part, this was a defensive game. Alcorn's defense has shown out a lot of this season, right? And they haven't had much help from their offense really to back them up. This is the first game they've been helped by their offense. They got some backup. And they play with their backs to the wall this game. So, can't wait to dig into that film, but shout out to Alcorn, though. Shout out to Alcorn. Game I did watch. Jackson State at Texas State. It really was the talk of the town, right? Jackson State lost, and oh my God, they put up 70 points, this and that. Texas State is really good. And if you thought you was going to beat Texas State, you're tripping. You didn't do your homework. You didn't check the scouting report. It's a bad loss, though, right? I talked about North Carolina Central losing earlier. They lose the game 59-7. They were the Celebration Bowl champions. Well, you know who they beat? They beat Jackson State. And Jackson State just lost to an FBS team, 77-34. So it's a black eye to HBCU football. I'm not gonna lie. It's a black eye seeing your two the championship winner and the championship runner-up playing against FBS program and absolutely get boat raced. It's maybe not black eye. It's like a slap in the face. Like, damn, that's our best playing against number 24 UCLA, and they can't score a point against the ones or the twos or the three. And they may have scored against the threes. So tough, very tough, tough pill to swallow. If I'm Jackson State, though, I just keep moving. The fact that Jackson State could put up some points against this Texas State team is it's a good idea of where Jackson State is offensively. So I would say that their offense works. Defensively, hey, I mean, you got worked. Straight up, you got worked. It wasn't the refs. It wasn't anything else. G.J. Kinney's offense is ridiculous. It ain't about these FCS transfers, all this. It's the offensive system. It's ridiculous. This is going to work wherever. In 5 years, G.J. Kinney will be a Power 5 head coach somewhere. I'm pretty sure of it. He's an offensive guru. He's one of like Lincoln Riley, Steve Sarkisian. He's one of those guys, just younger. That's all it is right now. He's like the young Lane Kiffin type. So, yeah, now playing this game, going into it, I thought it was going to be a wash. I didn't think it was going to be much. Now, I think the difference and what people were bringing up was the fact that they feel like last year's team would have fared better against Texas State, and they're absolutely right. Shedeur Sanders would have went toe-to-toe with Texas State. It would have been 77-70, if anything. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. But that isn't the team this year. If Coach Prime was still here, I'm sure he would have put up a much better fight. Point blank, period. That was a better team. We're looking now at a lot of those players that were on that team last year, Jackson State. They're Power 5, Ole Miss, Colorado, wherever they want to go, right? They're Power 5. TCU. So, yeah. I think they would have played better, but they're not here. So, I don't really get that point. For me, Jackson State moving forward, you did decent. Came out, scored some points against a better opponent, a bigger opponent. Some of the guys are a little bit bigger. But taking in stride, man. It's an FBS opponent. It's a money game. Hopefully you got some good money. Next year you got Louisiana Monroe. I think going into it, it has to be some more preparedness in going into these FBS games for some of these programs if you expect to win them. Period. Honestly, I mean, Jackson State came in, they played a good first half. Well, not even a good first half, a good first quarter. But in the second quarter, Texas State started scoring. Jackson State couldn't score. And defensively, Jackson State could not get things together. And special teams was very poor for Jackson State. Their coverage is bad. The return team is decent, but I think Jackson State fans were spoiled the past 2 years with very good special teams play. Well, actually improving special teams play. We got to see Isaiah Bolden and stuff back there be able to take back kicks, and Kevin Coleman back there take back kicks. And the kicking game actually got much better with Mata. So we saw special teams improve for Jackson State during Prime's tenure. But in this first year for Coach T.C. Taylor, man, we're seeing some missed field goals. And that's SWAC kickers. So, you know what I mean? That's SWAC kickers. But we're seeing some missed field goals. We're seeing bad coverage on punt and kickoff, which is allowing for big gains and really bad field position for this Jackson State defense. That's very good. So they're putting themselves in the wrong positions. So it's the little things for Jackson State. And it's going to take time. They might not fix special teams this season, right? One thing about special teams, there's a special teams coach. And if you don't know what he's talking about, I mean, you could spot it on film, but he's been coaching these kids since the spring, these same techniques. Not to say that it's hard to change your special teams techniques and your special teams formations and things like that, but you don't necessarily want to change it in the middle of the season. That may be more harmful than helpful at times because you need the players to not only understand the offensive and defensive install. Special teams is secondary to all that. You shouldn't be sitting here studying more on special teams than your offense defense. I mean, I get it, probably equal time, but special teams, once you know it, you know it. It shouldn't be a brain teaser to figure out special teams. So, yeah, R1 and L1 usually does the same thing in every special teams kickoff, right? So it's going to be an issue for us this season. That's all my only point to Jackson State fans. The special teams is going to be an issue. It's not much going to change. You could change some personnel, but scheme-wise, even if you change the scheme, it might improve, but might not get too much better. Special teams takes time. Like, literally, you have to be pushing special teams hard to get better at it. You don't just get better by running a couple plays every game, every practice. And I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but I'm saying it takes an off season. It takes an off season of looking in the mirror to go, we need better this, better that. So I think Jackson State has that with Matt Noe at punter. He's a great punter. Sometimes he outkicks his coverage, but shit, who cares in college? What I will say, maybe some more coffin corner punts might help Jackson State a little bit better, knowing that Matt Noel is going to kick it out there about 50, 60 yards. Maybe we just aim for the corners and get a bounce out. Might be better than allowing them to field and hoping for a fair catch. Kicking wise, they missed a couple field goals or something like that, but get a better field goal kicker, man. I hear about SWAC kickers, so that's all I chalk it up to SWAC kickers. That's what I chalk it up to. So, finishing it up, we're done with the SWAC recap. We'll talk about Benedict. Benedict, absolute dominant force this year in HBCU football. In Division II this year, Week 1, they beat Shaw 52-0. Week 2, they beat Edward Waters 34-0. And Week 3, they beat Lane College 54-7. The 7 points came from a turnover that Benedict's offense had. Like it was like a scoop and score or something, or a pick six. So Benedict's like that. And I think a lot of Division I HBCUs are happy that Benedict didn't schedule them this year, but Benedict probably would have marked the bottom half of the SWAC and probably 3 of the 5 MEAC teams, if we're going to keep it real. This team is nice. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. Aeneas Dennis at quarterback looks good. It's a great heir to the throne that Eric Phoenix left. And the rest of this offense has returned from last year. The rest of the defense has returned. There's not much of a difference in this year's team and last year's team other than the fact that they've gotten better. Like Benedict has gotten better. And the only hesitation I have on Benedict is the fact that they got absolutely crushed by Wingate last year in the playoffs, and I did not see that coming. So I'm hesitant about them, right? Week-to-week in adjustments. But we have seen some good adjustments this week, right? So Edward Waters and Shaw, for what it's worth, their offenses were still relatively new and coming together. Lane College has actually put together a pretty good offense in the short span that they've been together. Between quarterback Polo Solomon, Jaquez Jones out there, Anthony Evelyn at receiver, this Lane College offense looks good, right? They throw the ball around a lot, and honestly, they put up a lot of points. So, and think about this game, you had to wonder about how Benedict was going to stop the passing game and what they could do to stop it. Well, they shut it down all the way. Like, Polo Solomon had like 100 passing yards. Jaquez Jones obviously had under 100 receiving yards. Anthony Evelyn obviously had under 100 receiving yards. They slowed down the entire offense. Wasn't sure if it was with the front seven or what. Like, I've only seen highlights of this game. Unfortunately, all the SIAC games are not always streamed. I think this was actually one of them. So if I can find the film, I'll watch it and check and dig in and get deeper with the film. Pause. But Benedict is him. You don't want to see Benedict. And Benedict, let's go through their schedule. Benedict has not many other schools that look like they're going to even touch them this year until they get to the SIAC championship. I think they have one of the big 4 on their schedule this year. And I want to say it's, let's not guess. I got it right up. Fort Valley. Yeah, it's Fort Valley. So they have a test this next week. They go to Chowan, at Chowan. So out-of-conference play is what I really question, right? Other than CIAA opponents. Out-of-conference play is what I question with Benedict. And they're going to play against Chowan. Chowan just left the CIAA. They're now in maybe the MEC. So now they'll be playing against an out-of-conference opponent. They'll be at Chowan also. So let's see how they play this past weekend. I mean, this weekend coming up. But they play at Miles and they play Fort Valley State back-to-back weeks and on October 7th and October 12th. So those will be big matchups. But hey, Benedict got it going on right now. They got it going on right now. You don't want to get in their way. Chowan, you might just meet the fist this weekend. So I think I have one more Did You Know? Do I have one? Yeah, I got one. Here's my last Did You Know, and then we'll get out of here, guys. So, did you know the leader in passing yards this week was my boy, Allen University's own David Wright. David Wright threw for 411 yards this past weekend in a comeback victory over Kentucky State, where they scored 30 points in the fourth quarter. 30. He also led HBC football in passing touchdowns. 5 passing touchdowns. Another guy's been passing pretty good out there, Donovan Riddick. I've talked to you guys week in and week out about Donovan Riddick. I like this dude at West Virginia State. He led HBCU football in completion percentage. He threw 73%. That's pretty damn good, man. I like that. So the leader in rushing yards this week was Rashard Jackson. Rashard Jackson, rushing yards, had 185 rushing yards. That's pretty dope. I ain't gonna lie. That's pretty crazy. And that's at Virginia Union. Like, that's where Jada Byers plays running back. So Yeah. Now, receiving yards. Johnny Jones of Edward Waters went for 139 receiving yards. He went absolutely crazy. He did his thing out there. I liked it. Then the most team yards, it was Edward Waters at 477 team yards, which was very good for Edward Waters. Edward Waters stepped it up. Now, I can't even remember, man. It's been so long ago. I think I talked about the Did You Know earlier. But in case I didn't, here's Did You Know. Leave it up on the screen for y'all. Y'all know my memory sucks, guys. But it's been a great show, man. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to HBCU Flicks, man. It's your boy, Kelly Flicks. We're going to be doing this all throughout the week. I'm going to figure out my schedule for this, man. I'm going to figure it out, man. I know Monday's definitely a day I want to drop, but I also want to have a good day to drop my pregame show. So the pregame show will definitely be coming soon. This is one of my first shows of the week. I also want to do an award show, so I got to figure it out. And I will, man. It's a lot going on right now, but I got it. Don't worry about nothing. It's your boy, Kelly Flicks. This has been another episode of HBCU Flicks, and I'm out. Peace.